Hello and welcome, I'm Andy Richmond, and over the next 10 minutes or so we'll be taking a look at the Redskins and Lions clash in our big match preview brought to you exclusively by NFL Insight. We'll take a look at how the betting markets shape up on this contest, look at some of the important elements within the game and assess those, the dynamics of the contest and what the teams need to do in order to get an edge in this game, and give you just a little taster of some of the trading statistics that exist throughout the match from our exclusive and groundbreaking match trading statistics sheets, which are available exclusively via the Insiders Club at NFL Insight. Let's look at how the bookmakers weigh up this game first of all, and how their prices compare with the NFL Insight Master Tissue, which is available on each and every game. You can see that we, like the bookmakers, make this a fairly tight game. Very little between the two teams is shown by the, some would say, small and rather token handicap line between the two teams, which have only mustered one win between them so far. If anything, the Redskins' 0-2 start has seen the Lions slightly overbet, and that record, which has seen them lose their previous 21 visits to Washington, seems to have been slightly forgotten by those who want to support the Lions. All of these prices that we're about to show you and are on the chart in front of you are available by our trading sheets, so that you can compare a real price based on hundreds of similar games, and that's what these prices are based on, hundreds of similar games that are being offered in the marketplace. So in effect, you've got a tissue in your hands, and that will prove incredibly useful to you if you're betting or trading on the game, giving you an idea of what the real price should be in the market. Let's take a look at the prices, and we'll use matchbook prices for these. The matchbook exchange is one that I could thoroughly recommend that you have a look at as an alternative to BetDAQ or Betfair. There's some good liquidity on there, and they have very good coverage on the NFL games. On the money line with matchbook, the Redskins are 1.84 favourites, and despite being 0-2, that line is probably driven by the Lions' poor record at Washington, plus their defeat to the Cardinals last week, although the gap should be expected to close a little towards the weekend. I could even make this a sort of pick-em game. Similarly, on the handicap with matchbook, the Skins are just asked to give away a token point, and that doesn't really affect the prices too much. That really is just a token point. I'd almost make this a pick-em game. Finally, on matchbook, we take a look at the match points line. That's set at 49. In the last 5 meetings, that price, that 49, has only been topped once, and that was in the last meeting, which the Lions took 37-25. This time around, that line looks about right. As things stand, I don't see any particular margin in that market, although I did reflect in the NFL Insight weekly podcast, you seem to be paying a premium on overs at the moment, and I'd rather be on unders here, at least as a trading proposition. Let's reflect on some of those past meetings and how the season has started for the Lions and the Redskins. The Lions' visit to Washington, well, they proved a house of horrors. The last 21 have all ended in defeat. That must be one of the longest runs in sports. Washington have, however, lost their last 2 games against Detroit. Both games have come at the Lions, and resulted in 19-14 and 37-25 wins for Detroit. Starting the season, the Lions have split their first 2 games of the season. They beat the Vikings on the opening weekend before losing on the road to Arizona 25-21. They actually went 2-6 on the road last year. They were very, very inconsistent on the road this year. The Redskins, well, it's been a traumatic start, hasn't it? 0-2. And staring 0-3 in the face here. They've conceded 71 points to 2 very active offences in the up-tempo Eagles offence and the passing-packed Packers offence on Sunday. Furthermore, well, that Green Bay gashed them for 580 yards on Sunday. I think the Packers had 3 100-yard receivers as well as their first 100-yard rusher for quite some time. So that's the background for the game. So the Redskins really do need to bounce back here. But first of all, we'll take a look at the dynamics of the game. 5 keys to the game for each side. We'll start with the Lions as they bid to break this Washington hoodoo. After the exit of Reggie Bush from the game on Sunday, the Lions really did struggle to run the ball, managing just 49 yards in 20 attempts. And I'll touch on their need for a better offensive balance in a moment. However, the lack of a running game wasn't solely attributed to their offensive line, and in other respects they did an excellent job with the games against the Cardinals, especially centre Dominic Raiola and left tackle Riley Rafe, who rarely allowed any pressure on passing downs. The Lions line should be given credit for allowing just a single sack and pressure on only 18% of Matt Stafford's dropbacks. Through 2 weeks, Stafford has been pressurised a league low 23% of the time, and the Redskins will need to produce plenty of pressure to reduce the effectiveness of Stafford, who, if given time and space, has the ability to take the ailing Washington defence apart, the same one that suffered a mauling at the hands of Philadelphia and Green Bay that I mentioned just a short while ago. It certainly looks as though the injury suffered by Robert Griffin III at the end of last season and his subsequent operation have so far limited his mobility, and it's vital that the Lions continue to pressure him throughout the game. It would though be a big help if the defensive line could convert more of their quarterback pressures into actual sacks. Pro Football Focus, which I use for a lot of my analysis on the NFL, credit the Lions with the second best pass rush in the league through 2 games. Their statistics chart the Lions with 37 quarterback pressures, but just 5 sacks. That's a pretty poor conversion rate, yet they face a quarterback here who has been pressured on 100 of his dropbacks and completes just 39% of his passes under pressure. Whilst we know about the danger of Sue and Fairley for the Lions pass rush, it could also pay to keep an eye on rookie Ezekiel Ansah this week. He showed plenty of potential against the Cardinals. He played 53 snaps, all of them on the defensive right side, as he showed some of the potential that made him a top 10 pick in the draft back in April. He picked up a hurry and 2 hits in 32 pass rushes and showed some good run defence also, keeping Robert Griffin III under pressure. Very, very key for the Detroit Lions. The biggest reason for the failure to record more sacks is that one player is getting the pressure fast. It's only one player is getting the pressure fast enough, and that gives throwing lanes and escape routes. While RG3 is still obviously limited as he recovers from his knee injury, the Lions should be able to take some shots at him. Washington have a solid offensive line, but the Lions have talent up front to impact the passing game and record some game-changing sacks if they can up that conversion rate. Detroit defensive coordinator Gunther Cunningham dialed up some blitzes last week to keep the Cardinals guessing, and that would be an effective tactic in Washington as well. The Lions do need to practice the timing on those blitzes, however. Last season, Griffin faced at least 5 pass rushes on a league low 21% of his dropbacks. This season, it seems that sides are really getting after him because he's faced 5 or more rushes on 42% of his dropbacks. Let's talk about penalties. Penalties have been a real problem for the Lions for quite some time now. Indiscipline, I'd like to call it. And they must learn to cut them out as they continue to hurt themselves with them. Just one example from last week was the Willie Young illegal hands to the face penalty, which negated a beautiful strip sack by Ziggy Ansah. Instead of a turnover, the Cardinals kept possession. The Week 2 penalty count was 8 separate infractions for a loss of 105 yards. If you keep making those kinds of mistakes and giving teams that many yards, then that statistic will come back to bite you. The Detroit offense ranks amongst the NFL's top 8 in yards at 395.5 yards per game, and points, 27.5 they're racking up. But what they must do is maintain a balance to their offensive efforts, especially if they are without Reggie Bush on Sunday. With Lions quarterback Matt Stafford having faced little pressure so far this year, it's very easy for them to give up on the ground game if they are without Bush, and have to rely on Joique Bell to carry the football, given that Stafford has an elite wide receiver in Calvin Megatron Johnson. Setting up the running game is counter to how Detroit operates offense, but against the Redskins it's a highly prudent strategy. Washington have been absolutely terrible at stopping the run this year. A big factor is the poor tackling by Washington. The Redskins have missed an astonishing amount of tackles in just 2 games. Pro Football Focus again tallies the Redskins with 30 missed tackles so far. By contrast, the Lions have missed just 10. Even if Reggie Bell cannot go in this game with his knee injury, the Lions should still attack the Redskins' tackling weakness. Joique Bell has proven he can break tackles. His strength in his lower body and solid balance allow him to power through arm tackles. Pro Football Focus again credits Bell with 32 of his 56 rushing yards in the season. As yards after contact, he is incredibly strong, and they must not go away from the running game. Those 32 yards might not seem much, but they come against significantly better tackling defences than Washington. The Lions must continue to run a balanced attack on Sunday. Stafford has come out sharply in both games so far, a trend that must continue if the Lions hope to win. Seizing an early lead in Washington will break the fragile will of what must be a floundering team at the Redskins. Whilst I've just spoken about balance, it should be remembered that the Lions have an exceptional receiver in Johnson. Johnson had 6 grabs for 116 yards, including second quarter touchdowns of 72 yards and 3 yards respectively against the Cardinals in week 2. While it's tough to top a performance like that, don't bet against Megatron doing just that in week 3 when the Lions face a Skins defence that's already surrendered 6 passing scores and be reeling from the passing blitz that they faced against the Packers last week from Aaron Rodgers and his cohorts. The last time Johnson faced the Redskins, it was over 3 years ago, but he fared rather well then as well. 9 catches, 101 yards and 3 touchdowns. And with the Washington pass coverage being rated at the bottom of the pile collectively by the guys at Pro Football Focus again, Johnson could well be in for another big day, especially if Stafford is given time and space to throw. Let's flip things over now and take a look at the keys to the game for Washington. Tackling. We've already touched upon it. It's a major fault or flaw in their game at the moment. The effort of Washington to bring down the Packers ball carriers was pathetic. Nothing quite summed it up as well with 10:09 to go in the third quarter when Jermichael Finley actually broke 3 tackles in about 3 seconds. The team as a whole combined for a terrible 16 missed tackles, with Reed Doughty and Josh Wilson combining to miss 10 of them together. That's not good enough when you continue to combine feeble performances from their inside linebackers. You understand why they provided the shot in the arm that ignited the Packers rushing attack. For a 100-yard rusher as a Packers fan, that's almost unheard of. And this week they just look particularly torpid. Washington must tackle better this week. What else is hurting the Redskins? Well, the ability to sustain drives is hurting them. To say that third downs have been a problem for the Redskins this season would be a complete understatement. Third downs have been a killer, particularly in the first half. In the last 2 games, the Redskins are 1-9 on third downs in the opening 2 quarters. Only one of those for under 5 yards. That's a really tough way to live. They were 1-5 on Sunday, which is why they managed 0 first half points despite averaging 6.5 yards per play. Oh, and of their 24 drives this season, 17 have started at 20 or worse. Meanwhile, the opponents have combined to convert 9 of 17 third down chances in the first half. Last season proved that Griffin and this offense thrive with manageable third downs. They need distances that still present the threat of a run and embroil the defences in a nasty guessing game before the snap. That point leads on to another area of the game that must improve for Washington, and I suppose that when you're 0-2 there are always plenty of areas that you can improve. In this case I'm talking about the running game. It would help if the running game was producing more on second first downs too. Rookie running back of last season, Alfred Morris, did an excellent job, but this year he's getting stopped for minimal yardage or no gain at all, far too often on early downs. Part of that stems from the belief that Griffin's threat to run is diminished, so opponents are keying on Morris, but of a lack of variety in the running game for the Redskins. That's not helping either. They don't seem to want to use the speed of Roy Halou Jr. on early downs or share some carries between Morris and Evan Royster. With Morris being a marked man, maybe more of a committee approach is needed to the running game and to get some variety into that running game. But the real key to a successful rushing attack in week 3 won't depend on who carries the ball. It will depend on whether or not the Lions have Fairley on the field. The Lions are a different run defence with a former Auburn star at the heart of their imposing defensive line. But even if Fairley misses out again, there are other members of the Detroit defence that the Redskins must be wary of, including the youthful pass rushers Willie Young and the aforementioned Ezekiel Ansah. But Washington must get their running game again, not only to control the game and add balance to the offence, but also to give their ailing defence some time to rest and recover throughout the game. Now, a lot has been written about RG3 this year and his knee, but in truth he hasn't really looked comfortable this year. Remaining unpredictable was a huge part of the 2012 Redskins success. Now that teams know Griffin isn't running or running as much, Washington's whole offense breaks down. Now, it's not all on Griffin. His receivers have continued to drop passes on crucial downs that force the defence back on the field. Meanwhile, the running game has been stymied by a Washington defence allowing so many points. There's nothing to do but throw the ball to try and stay in the game or play catch-up. However, Griffin missed a lot of reps in the off-season, and it is insane to think he would come back and immediately be the same player we saw in Week 1 last season. Griffin needs game time, which cannot be achieved by putting him on the bench, so calls for him to be bench for backups are quite ridiculous because he just needs game time. His awareness in the pocket will sharpen. He'll feel pressure better, resulting in fewer sacks. He'll get out of the pocket and expend the play. Because barring Trent Williams, this offensive line can't protect a pocket passer. This is where his great natural ability will shine. He has to have that mobility back again. Unfortunately, that 0-2 start and the leakiest defence in the NFL, neither the Redskins nor Griffin have the luxury of time on their side. More than ever, the Redskins are relying on Griffin to drag them back to relevancy once more, and he needs to step up against a Lions defence who enjoy applying pressure to quarterbacks. The Redskins defence has come under intense gunfire to start the 2013 season, and that's not the biggest problem. The Redskins defence is unable to consistently make tackles. It involves effort and willingness to get physical, and has been caught on the short side of tackling situations throughout the first two games, as I've already mentioned. It comes down to the fundamentals and basics of defensive football. There are missed tackles and opportunities, along with the Redskins defence allowing 1,023 yards and 71 points. 50 of those points happened in the first half, when momentum, rhythm and ease of execution need to occur relatively error-free. Following the beating up by the Eagles offence, Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers' Week 2 performance was more impressive. 34 of 42, 480 yards and 4 touchdowns. Of his 8 incompletions, the Redskins did not defend a single pass in the game. Rodgers' misses were either drop balls or balls thrown out of play. This allowed Rodgers to throw for 335 yards in the first half alone. It just shows you that there's massive inexperience. The rookie starters David Amerson and Bakari Rambo are showing their inexperience. London Fletcher looks out of sorts, and if they don't or can't step up this week against the Lions, they will be in big trouble. And believe me, the Lions have the weapons to be able to put points on the board against this Washington D. They have to step up this week. It is one of the keys to the game, and they have to establish themselves momentum earlier on. Those are some of the little factors that could really apply in this game. And I mentioned at the top of the show our exclusive trading stat sheets. These have a lot of information about how sides have responded in certain situations before, and how often they go on to winning in certain situations. These give you a guideline and a price to compare with what is an offer at that point from the bookmakers. They're all based on very, very similar games and games of a similar nature over the past many years, and some have as many seven or 800 games of a similar situation. Here you can see what the true prices should be in the following situations at half time, and we also take a look by comparing games of a similar nature, likely to situations that happen throughout the game in our live trading room on Sunday night. We have that ability to be able to predict a live tissue price throughout the game to see how the game ebbs and flow and how likely certain statistical outcomes are to happen. So what are the prices going to be when there's a touchdown or a field goal scored, for instance? Where a price is going to go? That gives you the downside within your trading vehicle. Here you can see that it's around a 6-4 chance of either side leading the game by between 4 and 9 points in the second half, giving you some idea of where prices are going to go. These statistics, they're just a small taster of the profusion of data that we have available in those sheets, which are vast in their amount of data, and we can't show all of them here, but they are exclusive to NFL Insight, and via the live updates that we are available in our trading room, that allows us to make and assess match situations at an instant and look at the available odds an instant as well. They are invaluable tools to us, and I say they are exclusive to NFL Insight. Again, these match previews are a small part of what we do here at NFL Insight, and to make sure you continue to receive these, make sure you subscribe to the NFL Insight TV channel, which we'll be broadcasting via YouTube. That's for all the latest previews. And I'll be back soon with more match previews. We're hoping to extend these to more than 2 a week soon as the season goes on, and all the live TV games and all the big matches in the NFL. And make sure you also check out our betting focused previews by our website, which is at www.betting-insight.com, where we take a look at the best betting opportunities in the game once we have taken into account all the tactical factors in this preview. Come and get involved with us at NFL Insight for all your NFL previews, statistics, trading views and betting advice. NFL Insight is at the forefront of a new way of looking at and betting on the NFL.